Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com, and I'm here today with my good friend, Miche Meisner. Miche is an energy healer and transformational specialist, like I am, but she has a totally different way of working with energy. She's working now with something called a cosmic attunement. So I'm really excited that you're here, Miche, and that we get to share this with the audience.
Yes, definitely. I'm happy to share it. I'm excited to share this.
So it's a little bit of a magical story how all this came about. Would you like to share that?
Right. Sure. And actually, ironically, you figure in this pretty important role there. I have been doing a variety of energy work. I've studied 10 different modalities over the last 20 years. One of them is reconnective healing and the reconnection. And I had actually mentioned that to you some time ago during a conversation, and you mentioned you were interested in that. I had never done one remotely before. I'd only done them like with a person in front of me. But we thought, hey, let's give it a try. And so we did. And you felt a lot. There was a lot going on for you. And then I was saying, I really want to do my own work. I don't really want to do somebody else's work, or just my version of somebody else's work. And you strongly encouraged me to just go do my own thing. And I didn't know what that was, but, I took your directive. And shortly after that, I met this young Romanian woman online who was doing group energy work and healings. And I attended her thing online, and I just felt like something really profound happened. And I didn't know what, but there was like some quantum leap. I couldn't figure it out. Fast forward like another 3 or 4 weeks after that, I'm snowed in what we finally now call snowpocalypse, where I was without electricity for like 5 days and without a phone and internet and all of that. So I was on my own little silent retreat. And when my one friend was able to take her 4-wheel drive and like come visit me, I was telling her about all these different pieces. And I said, hey, you want to just, hop on my massage table and let's see what happens. She did. And I put my hands out, and suddenly a few minutes later, she says, I feel like I need to say something. Something was wanting to come through. And she wound up channeling for like an hour while I was moving around, channeling my guides. I mean, I recognized them from having worked with them years, but they were coming through her, not through me. And they were directing me in different sort of movements or different processes or whatever. We both came out of this session with like, what was that? And both felt that I was working on like a gelatinous bubble that was around her. And so over the next few days, we kept talking about it, and she channeled some more as I worked on her. And, what I come to have as my working model is the idea that if you think that when we each come, our souls, souls come to be here in an earth lifetime, that we kind of come down in this enormous bubble, like a space bubble or a biosphere kind of thing. And it's our own unique environment. And it is what sort of helps us have an interface between us, the human being, and our greater non-physical self, our soul, or other cosmic beings or source or guides, whatever. And that what I was being taught to work on and work in was that space, more so than actually working on like the body, or what I kind of call now like the near energetic, because we are energetic beings and we have auras and electromagnetic field and all of that. And most of the modalities are working on, they're either working on like beliefs and, sort of from the more sort of mental, emotional, or they're working on, your chakras, your aura. And instead of that, I'm working on the space between.
How would you define this cosmic attunement that you do for people?
Right. Okay. So I use an analogy best one, I think, is like, you think of like a really deep cleaning of your house. So this is like a deep cleaning of your energetic environment, atmosphere. I'm talking about the space between your sort of earthly self and magnetics out to the edges of this enormous biosphere that encapsulates you. So what I'm doing is like recalibrating and kind of attuning your environment to the greater cosmic environment and to create the most clarity and strongest signal incoming and outgoing between you and your higher self, your guides, your angels. So when we're living our lives and we're maybe doing energy work, or we're getting through colds or stress or whatever, and we're healing and we're growing, we're sort of sloughing off stuff, sort of like, we walk around and like slough off dead skin, or you walk through your house and you throw your clothes off. And if you never pick up your clothes, you're going to have like a sea of old clothes all over the floor of your house. And it's sort of like that, but we don't see it and we don't feel it, but it's affecting us, and it affects how we, make it to the front door, or if you never clean your windshield, it affects how you're going to see the cars in the road ahead of you. So what I'm doing is I'm working on sort of all of that and clearing that out. It's like an additional piece that like, it sort of strengthens all the work that you've already done, because it's like you've done this work, but then, there's like sort of leftovers kind of laying around having to do with your growth and your change, and still in your environment, even if it's not like in your immediate sort of energetic physical body. So I'm clearing all of that out, and it creates amazing spaciousness for people and transformation, mostly in the sense of like who you already are working on being or what you're in process of. It just clears away.
So this
Yeah.
debris that you're clearing out, is it emotional? Is it mental? Is it behavior patterns? Or is it really a gamut of whatever needs to go?
Yeah, I think, it's coming from a gamut. When I'm dealing with it, I feel like what it is really is like pure energy, or it's energy attached to the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and the circumstances, right? So one of the things that happens usually, and these sessions are unique to everybody, always new different things showing up, but there's some patterns, and most often at some point I'm sort of clearing, sometimes I think of it like I'm raking leaves, or, vacuuming, whatever. I use whatever metaphor or analogy is handy or comes to mind. But as I'm sort of gathering this up and throwing some out, and sort of something's getting compacted, and the sense that I have is what I'm left with, and I have my little prop here, is that from the first time it felt like that I was clearing all this stuff out and then compacting something, and I was left with this very dense, rich, this is a mineral apatite sphere. So just for example, there was this really rich treasure that was left over after all the baggage and the static and the trauma was gone. And so I see this as, it is the treasure, it is the growth, it's the energy, it's the wisdom that was gained through whatever life experience or trauma or illness, or, whatever it is that's sort of getting cleared up. Like, you get to keep the wealth of it, and without having any, of the dis-ease or the discomfort or the re-triggering or traumatizing. And usually in a session when I get this, I'm also shown by my guides where to put it, usually in someone's body, sometimes elsewhere. But for example, I was doing a session with somebody, and I wound up with a black sphere, and I was shown to put it in right like here in her shoulder area. And, I mean, I know this person, but I don't know much about them, their history or whatever. And anyway, as we're talking after the energetic part of the session, the sort of debriefing and sharing, what did you notice? I tell her this, and she said, oh, I've been having a frozen shoulder. It's been so bad, I was about ready to go to the doctor with it. And in fact, whatever happened, and I don't really know what happened, except that I put a imaginary black ball, which was an imaginary culmination of all this other stuff, into her shoulder on an imaginary level, right? And she healed, and it hasn't come back. So, there's not always a physical healing that happens, but sometimes And most often when it has, it's like confirmation to me that the thing that's shifting is somehow connected to my being shown where to put the treasure, right? The goods, put the goods.
I love it, Miche. Now, you've said a couple of really interesting things. So I want to backtrack a little bit and talk for a moment about your metaphor of putting all your clothes all over the floor and never picking them up, because a lot of people don't understand that things like unresolved emotions or limiting beliefs actually have weight. They don't see them as something tangible. But yet, if they
Right.
do some energy work and clear that, they always feel lighter and like there's more space inside. And their
Yes.
body posture can even change.
Yeah.
These things that don't seem 3D actually do affect us in a 3D way.
Right. Yeah. And I try to offer different metaphors and analogies because we don't see these things. We can feel the effects, but unless we're really tuned in or unless we're used to working with energy, we don't necessarily sense it in a moment or make that connection. So some of the metaphors that I like to use is the idea of like you cooked garlic and onions in your dinner last night and you walk into your kitchen in the morning and it still smells like garlic and onions. Like that's energy, right? The scent of it, it's an energetic, it's a vibration and it's still there. So it's like that. You're going to want to clear it out. And if you never clear it out, you go into some little restaurant dive and they'll never get that smell out. Because it's just there until you do a deep cleaning, right? And change the filter and degrease and all of that. And the other one I think that we can relate to is radio signal, right? Radio signal is a energy wave. And that, well, I don't know if they're really radios anymore where you like turn the dial, rather than just punch in what you want. But at least for those of us who are a little older and can remember when you had to turn the dial and you would, and what that was doing was tuning the system to pick up a certain frequency and vibration. And when you matched it, when you aligned with that radio station and their frequency, you got a loud, clear, powerful signal, right? And if you turned it a little bit, it started to get maybe blippy, kind of like, nowadays we would say you froze, right? Or you're coming, it's pixelated. So that's another example, right, of the message, the information, whether it's the visual or the auditory, the radio signal starts to go staticky. And if you go far enough off of that signal, you're just going to lose it entirely, or you're going to wind up bringing in two stations at once and you can't make anything intelligible happen. So that's happening all the time for us. And we're not only receiving those signals, we're emitting those signals. And, yes, they're like in the airwaves. I mean, air is not really empty space.
Exactly.
Right. And so we're clearing that. Yeah.
Yeah. We clean our house, we clean our body. It makes perfect sense to want to clean our energy system, especially if we're doing a lot of personal work or if we have a lot of emotional baggage and limiting beliefs. I mean it. You don't want those old remnants to kind of hook you back into those old ways of being.
Great.
And I love that your process also keeps the wisdom of all the challenges. That's something that I do. And I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all that you would take that experience and toss it 100% out the window without retaining the wisdom you learn from that.
Yeah. Even if it's only that you survived and that you lived beyond what that circumstance was. Like, don't throw that out, I mean, you had to have gotten stronger. You had to have learned things. And I never saying that like you chose that or, you deserve that or, I mean, it's not that. It's like these things happen in life. We have these experiences. And while we may never, ever want to repeat them or even think about them again, there's something in us as a spiritual, energetic being that grew in that process, right? And so, yeah, honor that.
Absolutely. And I don't think you have to know consciously what the lessons or the benefit was. I mean, if it's
Hmm.
energetic or even on the level of the unconscious mind, it's in there for you to use whenever you need to use it without having to
Right.
consciously, you know what it is and exactly where it is and exactly when to pull it up.
Hmm.
You gotta
Yeah.
love this system. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we innately work with energy and affect energy and are affected by it. We can learn some to be discerning and notice it more, but it's not that it's not working. If we're not thinking about it, it's still working. You turn a light switch on, and I have a general idea of how electricity works, but if it required me to really understand what was happening in order to have the light go on, I'd mostly be sitting in the dark at night. Yeah.
It actually reminds me of doing affirmations and the law of attraction. And if you do a positive affirmation for 5 minutes a day, but the rest of your waking time, you're very negative, or you're always looking at what's wrong with the world or your life or you, I mean, that goes into your creation as well.
Right. You do an affirmation in the morning, and then for whole the rest of the day, you're playing a station in the background that is saying, nasty or undesirable or chaotic or cranky things to you. What are you going to end up with at the end of the day? I don't think you're going to be like, oh, yeah, this morning I started out and I was really positive and happy. Like, you're going to be bombarded with, sort of like listening to the news, for example, right?
This is a way to kind of dust off your frequency and up level it.
I also do what I'm just calling a cosmic clearing, which usually I do as a group setting. And to me, that is more the dusting off. It helps and it feels good and it clears stuff, but it's the more superficial. The cosmic attunement is where we really go, I'm like going deep. And so I'm clearing on a huge level, right? So the clearing is like, we're sort of more like kind of in your house, but in the attunement, we're like in your big space bubble. And it's affecting all sorts of levels. Often there's like ancestral stuff coming up, or there's sort of galactic visitors sometimes, or your own guides will show up and help work with us. And the cosmic clearing is more the quick dusting, light vacuuming, keeping the peace in the space.
Which is also good. So,
Yeah.
Miche, what kind of results have people reported?
Everyone is different. I mean, every person is different, obviously, but each session is different also, partly because it's really sort of run by my guides and my intuition and your guides. So there's always a unique combination. Not everyone has amazing results. I would say everyone has like really good results. And then many people have amazing results. I mean, it's like the majority of the cases are having pretty amazing transformative experiences in the moment, and then that continue to unfold. So for example, some of the trends that I've noticed is that their boundaries get like clear, and their ability to set boundaries tends to come up. I mean, even some folks who really were not in the habit, of setting boundaries, of not, sort of taking stuff on, suddenly we're like, wait a minute, that doesn't work for me. You can't do that, or nope, that's not going to work. Just being decisive in either direction, knowing what they want, being willing, having the confidence, the self-confidence to say it, to take action and make things happen. I've seen people change directions with their business, not necessarily, a whole new career or whatever, but like one of the first women I worked with, we had a session and she immediately like sort of found this new inroad of how she wanted to run her business and work with people, and then instigated it like within a week, and she's up and running with it. So really like decisive action, taking bold action, speaking up, clarity of your own, what your vision is or what's going on for you, a lot more connection with your own intuition. And so your sort of inner sense, your inner wisdom, and then also the sense of sort of being connected to your own higher wisdom, your soul, your higher self. So people are getting more in touch with themselves earthly and themselves, cosmically. Some physical healings, like the one I was saying where the woman's frozen shoulder vanished.
I can say that I've had a cosmic attunement, and probably the most significant shift I had was a real deepening of my own sense of self.
Yeah.
My core connection of who I was and my place in the world and what resonated with me and what didn't. So it was a really effective tool to help me make
hmm
choices and have good discernment.
And a clearer view. I mean, really, if you go with this idea of the space bubble, the biosphere, and you think of it as sort of full of like space debris, space junk that you can see and that you can't, and that how you connect with your own higher self is through this bubble. Out, you can suddenly see what's out there, but it's like the space now is yours. You can fill that space with yourself. And so in that sense, you are expansive. Some people will come out of this and they'll, some of the difficult feelings or patterns, or, if you've been like somebody who tends toward anger or depression or whatever, like it may come up, but it's not, you're not reliving it. You're sort of noticing patterns as they leave. It's sort of like, oh, okay, I recognize that, poof, gone. Or you notice that I don't respond that way anymore to that trigger or that circumstance. So people are having more clarity and discernment, how they carry themselves, how they react. They're more in their own authority and self-possessed as opposed to being reactive.
Whenever we can shift our physical experience of life through energetics or emotional clearing, I mean, it really does give us the picture that there's more to our experience than just 3D reality, that there's a lot
Right.
going on here.
And we're a little more, open and available to notice that and also to call it in, right? To sort of call in, what we might call magic, synchronicity. It's like when the communication is stronger and clearer, it's like, your guides, your higher self, like keeping an eye on us down here. And there's always that connection. I mean, we're never not connected. But when you're tuned in, it's much easier to hear what they're saying. And it's easier for them, to hear what you're putting out. You're putting out a clearer radio signal as well. And it affects us. And then we start to see that, as it unfolds.
You said something that I think deserves to be repeated, and that is that we are always connected. Sometimes we feel like we've lost connection, but it's there. It's just our perception or our awareness of it has become diffused.
And I would say along with that too, that, we're never broken. I mean, I don't go into this thinking like, oh, you're just, a mess and you just need to be fixed or whatever. This is about expanding and sort of up leveling where we're at, kind of helping us move to whatever our own next level of growth is, in a really positive way.
So, Miche, if any of the listeners would like to learn a little bit more about cosmic attunement and your cosmic clearing offerings, would you like to share your website?
You can also find me on Facebook at Spoonbenders Cafe. I run a group called Spoonbenders Cafe Group. And so either the business page or the group, you can come in and find out a lot about this and other things that I'm doing. And the link I'll put below will also kind of give you a list of the various services and attunements and clearings.
Miche has a special offer for any of the listeners. If you're interested in a cosmic attunement, we'll have a special code in the show notes that you can click on and learn a little bit more. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find us on YouTube, on iTunes, Anchor.fm, and also on Podcoin. You can earn points for listening to your favorite podcast. Come and visit me at thoughtchange.com. You can pick up your copy of Learning to Listen. Easy tips on how you can start hearing your own innate wisdom and connecting with your own intuition. That's it for this week. We'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.